Welcome to Non-Number Sports Podcast, episode 16, the home of sports talk for everyone. I'm David.
I am the episode something of the A Show award-winning Jason.
That's one way to introduce yourself.
Oh, I won that last episode I was on. So I gotta announce it, don't I? I mean,
Yeah, you got to give a shout out.
Spoiler alert, because that show drops on Mondays and ours drops on Sunday. But yeah, I won the fan vote. So
you should get a belt.
Don't, because I'm already pricing them.
There you go. You just get something for you, every time you're on the show, just kind of wear it.
Yeah, no.
Have it as your background.
But I according to the people who listened and voted, I booked the best show, so go me.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Yep.
Oh, man. How close was the actual voting?
Without looking, I think I had 43% and they each had like 20 something.
Wow. So it was almost like a runaway for you.
And I think my last two votes came like that day, the day before it ended.
I mean, because if you had 40-something, then yeah, they each had 20-something. That's a pretty good jump.
Well, that's the percentage.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I secured it in that final day of voting. So,
hey, do it when it counts, right at the end.
Right? Yeah.
That's funny. All right. Period one. The NHL coming back to ESPN. Finally.
Well, this kind of ties back to what we talked about in episode 12 with NBC SportsNet deciding to stop broadcasting at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a shocker. When we first read about that a few episodes ago, but when we found out that ESPN was picking up NHL games now, it's because the last game that was played on ESPN was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Calgary Flames and Tampa Bay Lightnings back in 2004. Right. That was the last ESPN game. Now, here's the funny part about that whole thing. Daryl Sutter was the coach of the Calgary Flames at that time.
Yeah.
He is now the current coach of the Calgary Flames. So it's like he left. It's like, the ESPN said, bye, I don't want it anymore because he left. Also, I was reading that if people haven't watched hockey since that time, it's like Daryl Sutter never left Calgary.
For me, this is interesting because as we were talking, and on episode 12, I think we both kind of stated, it'd be great for one day the NHL to come back on ESPN, but we highly doubt it's going to happen. And most of the reports when the news came out about NBC SportsNet ceasing to exist at the end of the year was that the NHL was going to migrate over to the USA Network. And we talked about the full circleness of the NHL coming back onto the USA Network when it was their original cable home back in 1979. So clearly no one expected this from the outside looking in.
But the fact that it's going back to ESPN, where I think it had a lot going with it, because I know I stayed up a lot of nights. How many times have we watched it? They had a segment called NHL Tonight. Their theme was my ringtone.
It was when you called on my phone, that would play for you. Oh, David's calling.
Hey. I wonder what he wants. Chinese? All right.
Yeah.
That was a normal thing. But
every Saturday and Sunday. How we're alive.
Right.
How we didn't die. How we didn't get awfully sick from these crappy Chinese buffets we used to eat at in our young and broke days.
Yeah. But hey, some of the stuff was good. Some of the buffets
I'm not
were good.
saying that the food wasn't good. I'm saying that the cleanliness standards were shady at best.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is that General Chicken or a cockroach?
Right. Or we don't know the standards in there and how lax Department of Agriculture was then.
It was supposed to be a chicken on a stick. Well, who knows if it was actually chicken? Who knows what insect it might have been?
Might have been rat. I don't know.
Hey,
No, we had a lot
works.
of good cheap meals there, though.
3-4 plates.
That was only at the Evergreen for me.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite, though.
Oh yeah, too bad they took that out.
Right. That just felt like it was an upper tier of the Chinese buffet restaurant.
But still,
we tended to go to the restaurant. We tended to go to the lower tier more often than not.
Like you said, when you're broke, what are you going to do?
$1.99, all I can eat? Sure.
Might feel horrible at the end, but hey, why not?
Back to ESPN and NHL. So ESPN's going to air 25 exclusive games, and they'll either be on ESPN or ABC, that's great.
Oh yeah, because ABC was also at the time big into them them being on.
Yeah, they were really supportive.
Oh yeah. Now I just hope and pray that they don't do what Fox did back in the day with the Comet.
The glow puck?
Oh, I hated that.
Why would ABC have a glow puck?
Why did Fox have a glow puck?
Well, this was Fox's first sports deal, so they were going to do whatever they could to get noticed. I mean,
oh yeah, it noticed all right. I just pray whoever picks up anywhere, just know of that glow puck.
Glow puck.
And anybody out there who doesn't know what that is, basically what they did was they put something in the puck so they can track it. It glowed blue on the screen, but when a shot was taken, it turned red, and it was like a comet.
It was to make it.
It was
visually appealing for people who didn't watch hockey could get into it, basically.
Yeah, so people can like kind of follow the puck and all around, but the people who do watch it normally would just, I don't know, it bugged me. It bugged me.
Hashtag no glow puck.
Right. Make shirts of that.
Yeah. Now the one thing I thought was interesting was that 75 games will be on ESPN Plus. This kind of ties back to, again, episode 12 when we talked about NBC SportsNet and stuff move into Peacock Plus.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it, though, is now with ESPN Plus, they want to get as many people on there as can because everybody wants to market. Everybody wants to bring in as many subscribers as they can.
Right. I understand that.
This is a way because now here's a question. Is NHL Center Ice going away now because of this?
That's a possibility.
Because Center Ice was always all your out-of-market games, all this and that. But if ESPN Plus is picking it up, is that going to go over to them? That's the question.
My issue is, and it kind of goes to pretty much any streaming service at this point, there's so many of them.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually the bubble's going to burst and people aren't going to want to pay a monthly fee just to watch anything. And I don't know how much ESPN Plus is. I've never looked into it because I have enough streaming services.
Well, I think right now you have to get the bundle if you get anything. I mean, you could probably get it individually, but if they're going to bundle it together, then they're going to bundle it. Because I think right now with ESPN, Hulu, and Disney Plus, it's, I think, I don't know, $12, $13. If you get the no ads for Hulu, it's close to 20. I forget the actual amount. But I think it's just more to get the subscriptions over. I mean, look with HBO Max, when the Zack Snyder Justice League came out, how many people probably bought HBO Max just to watch it? Right. So all that revenue for them, I thinking this is the same thing. Now, Disney Plus, Hulu, and Disney, is it going to be like frozen on ice now?
Maybe you'll see Olaf in intermission instead of the Zamboni. For me, it's just, at what point do people...
Sad part is we can actually know all these characters because of our daughters.
Well, looking at our demographics, I think most of our listeners are dads. Very dad-based demographic we got.
And the sad part is when you say something that's like kid-oriented, people are like, how do you know about that? Kids, daughters. Ah, gotcha.
I got a little guy too. I don't just have a daughter now.
I know, but I don't
you
think
got
you
daughters.
Have, I mean, I don't think you have him watching Barbie at all.
No. Lots of wiggles right now.
Yeah, kids never got into Wiggles.
A lot of hot potato, a lot of cold spaghetti right now in this household.
I'm kind of grateful they didn't get into Barney.
Well, his time passed by the time our kids were born.
Oh, yeah.
He was on regular TV by the time our kids were born.
Well, Barney came into my house. There was a DVD that came in the house, and it was put in a DVD player, and I said, "Turn that off."
Amen.
You know, nope. That's nope. Not Barney. But anywho. But yeah, no, I mean, I just think that with ESPN, plus with a lot of the games going there, hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more games rather than just what's on NBC Sports. I mean, we get the NBC Sports Philly where we're at, and that in the NHL Network. I know the playoffs, they were doing games on USA Network during the playoffs, but now being that it's ESPN and ABC, it will be a lot more games. You know, hopefully, being they said like 75 ESPN produced, exclusives. Who knows?
I see ESPN and the ABC will share the coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs, so that's good.
Yeah, because I know that's what used to be not last year, but when they did have it on, it would be like games like 1 and 3 maybe, or 1 and 2. 3 and 4, and then they just split it out.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking at is that's what it's going to be like. 1 and 3 will be on ESPN, 2 and 4 will be on ABC, and then if whatever.
Yeah. Now the combo for all three, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu, it's either $14 or $20. Looking at the one site, but now though I think one's with commercials and one's without. So it's all depending how much you love commercials.
You're paying $14 a month and have to deal with commercials. Isn't that a kick in the pants?
Oh, look what people pay for cable. We deal with commercials all the time.
Right, but the whole idea of streaming was to get away from commercials, and to have it be subscriber exclusive, almost like what HBO meant to the cable industry, streaming meant to modern cable industry. Yeah. But I think once you start adding commercials and you're making people pay, I don't agree with that concept.
But the thing is, so people will pay it. That's the thing. People will pay it.
People are stupid.
Yeah, we are.
Sorry. Just being honest here. Sorry.
And why not? But yeah, I mean, like I said, I just hope that they don't butcher it.
Oh, wait a minute. So something else that could possibly come back when NHL had a 2K license.
Oh, yeah.
The 2K games were ESPN on NHL. Yes. Or NHL on ESPN games.
Yes, I forgot all about that. Oh. I mean,
that's just throwing something out there that there's no rumor or possibility at the moment, but
I mean, don't get me wrong. Those were not like EA games, like with graphics wise and all that, but they were still fun to play.
I will take a fun to play game over a graphically superior game because at the end of the day, the goal is to play it and enjoy yourself.
I agree.
So if the graphics aren't as great as one, but the gameplay is better, I'll take the gameplay any day over graphics.
I'll look at hits.
Oh man, I love hits.
How many times did we play that till like wee hours of the night?
They need to put that on the virtual shops.
Yes. Bring back an old school game like that. Yes.
Because I'm at the point I want to buy a used PlayStation 2.
Dude, I have it for GameCube. Well, I have it for GameCube.
I don't have it at all, and my PS4 isn't backwards compatible, so...
No, not GameCube. I have it for the Nintendo Wii. Sorry.
Well, you have the GameCube disc for the Nintendo Wii.
But still. Just playing it, the graphics are like... not what it is today, it's still fun to play.
I don't care. It's fun to play.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, how many times we play? Like I said, played until wee hours a night outside on the patio.
We played on the patio down. It would be like a beautiful summer night, like crisp and cool, late summer. We're in the freaking basement till like 2 a.m. playing hits.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that marathon game.
Oh, yeah. I forgot how many overtimes that actually went. A lot.
I want to say 28 because you and Travis were at your wits' end that neither of us could score a goal. It was that back and forth.
Hey, good games, man.
One-timers were so sweet in that game. Sorry.
Yeah, but who knows if they'll come back? Who knows if they'll make those games again?
Right. Just throwing it out there because it popped into my head.
No, hey, that's a possibility of it. That's definitely a possibility that they could do that. But yeah, this ESPN back to the NHL.
Welcome home.
About time. So on that note, that'd be the end of period 1.
What's up? My name is Matt Derline, and I'm here to tell you about the 2 podcasts that I host on the Club Kayfabe Creative Communities CKCC Radio. The first is called By the Numbers, where I interview wrestlers whose matches I have refereed in my nearly 20-year independent professional wrestling career. Tune in and hear the stories of the matches and the stories behind the matches themselves. My other show is called The A Show, co-hosted by Chris Decker. Each episode, Chris and I are joined by 1 or 2 special guests, and together we hold a mock draft based on a specific year and wrestling promotion, and then build cards based on our drafted rosters. You, the listener, decide who has the best card by voting on our Twitter poll each episode. You can hear By the Numbers and The A Show Mondays at 9 a.m., alternating weeks on CKCC Radio, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back for the second period. Second period just happened recently here. Drew Brees retires. I know this was a big question when they lost to the Buccaneers, if he was going to stay on for another season or retire. Well, we finally got an answer. He retired. Now, he is considered short for a quarterback because an average quarterback is 6'3". He was 6 foot. Right. So he was considered a short quarterback. Now, what he accomplished in his career for being of this stature, not only with, I think it was San Diego, but also with the Saints, which he's well known for the Saints, not really San Diego.
Right.
So Super Bowl 44 champion, Super Bowl 44 MVP. He's the second all time in passing touchdowns, first all time in passing yardage. Now, of course, that's going to be gone by probably next season because guess who's in second? Your first 2 guesses don't count.
I don't think anyone needs to guess.
Right. He holds the record for most seasons with 5,000 plus yards with 5. I mean, 5,000 yards in a season?
And then do it 5 times.
Exactly. He's tied with 7 other players for most TDs in a single game. Now, that's a good, he's going to the Hall of Fame. I think first eligibility, he's going into the Hall.
I would definitely say in regards to Hall of Fames, I feel like the Pro Football Hall of Fame isn't as, I don't want to say it's as stringent as the Baseball Hall of Fame, but
or the NHL.
I feel like nothing's as stringent as the Baseball Hall of Fame. For God's sake,
history.
Derek Jeter wasn't unanimous because one sports writer felt he didn't deserve first ballot nod in the Hall of Fame. So
that's a little ridiculous.
But I think his accomplishments on the field as a quarterback, they're undeniable.
Oh yeah, I mean,
especially in an era where he came up in an era where there weren't a lot of elite quarterbacks. Like you look at the quarterback game right now, and you have 3 or 4 guys who are really great, and then it just drops off.
Yeah, you don't have like what you had back in the day with like Joe Montana, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, just to name a small few.
Right. But I mean, this is definitely 19-year career, or 19-season career, I should say. He earned his stripes. Definitely, again, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Like you said, far more known for his time in New Orleans than his time in San Diego.
Yeah, so I mean, from when he went from that switch, I mean, he won a Super Bowl with the Saints, so he already paid his due to the Saints when he won that. So, but yeah, no,
he took the Saints to the promised land, and that was a heck of a game.
Oh yeah. Now he did all this being second round, 32 of the second round, pick 32.
That's not bad.
So to do what he did, that's an accomplishment. Because normally first round picks are always like, oh, the greatest, the greatest, the greatest. But as we know from previous episodes, a lot of times those later picks and or undrafted are always the ones that make the big names.
Right.
No, I mean,
you got to think that Super Bowl. I mean, that was him against Manning.
Yeah,
and that legend. Colts team during that time period, they were hot during that time. So to go up against them and put up a 31 versus to 17 game, that's nothing to to squawk about. That's a heck of an accomplishment in itself, even if it was the Super Bowl or not, just based on how good that Colts team was during that time frame.
Oh yeah, and the fact that it was 1 versus 1, so it was the best from the NFC, the best from the AFC, and like you said, Manning. I mean, alone he's a Hall of Famer himself. So it's not like it's just any random quarterback that was in there. It was Peyton Manning. And like you said, to do a 31-17, to do those types of numbers, that's a lot. That's a big, like you said, a big achievement. I mean, even though he only did spend a few years with San Diego. It wasn't like he spent the rest of the time with, he spent only 4 years with San Diego and the rest with the Saints. So, definitely Hall of Famer.
So Brees isn't leaving the game though, because he's moving on to an analyst job with NBC.
Oh, good. I mean, now will he stay in, Louisiana? Who knows? Because that was always a big thing that they said too. Will he stay there? Will he leave? From what I heard, I don't think he's leaving, but who knows?
No, I mean, he's probably made that his home during this time frame. But I think he's yet another quarterback who retires, and now they go on to do an analytical career, like a Troy Aikman,
or
like
Tony
a Tony Romo. So I mean, now we got to see how's he going to be as an analyst. Is he going to bring something new to the game? Is he going to be as good as some of the other guys who are doing it?
I mean, we all hope so. Just for what he does. If he's doing that, because we don't want to analyst being, he threw the ball.
Oh, you don't want him to be Troy Aikman. Well, no one wants him to be Troy Aikman.
Well, it could be like John Madden, stating the obvious. He threw the ball, he got a touchdown.
But we talked about Madden a few episodes ago. Madden was, he was enthusiastic, and you can't take away from that. I mean, his enthusiasm made it more fun to watch.
It did.
Yeah, he might have been pointing out some obvious things, but that's what he was supposed to do as a coach, and that translated to him as an analyst. But
it worked.
You can't take away from him his enthusiasm and how that translated to those watching the game at home.
No, I mean, Troy Aikman is an analyst that you just don't really. I can't listen to him. John Madden, I can. Tony Romo, I can.
I would
Joe
say
Buck is a hit or miss.
I would say in Aikman's defense, I mean, he does have a lot of concussions. So
there's a lot of other quarterbacks.
So you got to take that into consideration.
So there's a lot of other quarterbacks there. So
I don't think the game really. I mean, Brees retiring isn't going to change the game at all. It might change the Saints' world.
Oh yeah, it's gonna impact the Saints a lot because he was their quarterback for 14 years. So that's going to be huge. I mean, that's going to be big shoes to fill because
right.
that it's almost like if, let's say, Brady retired and Garoppolo stepped in. Big shoes to fill. Well, look what do in New England. Big shoes. So it's going to be the same thing. Whoever is going to be picked to be the quarterback for the Saints is going to be big shoes to fill. Despite despite everything that Brees has done, it's going to be large, not just big, but large shoes to fill.
Yeah, but I mean, the good thing is whomever they get, I mean, the Saints still have weapons at wide receiver, and they have some running backs who are really good in playing that role as well if need be. So I mean, whoever gets that job, they have talented
a core.
They have a talented receiver core. They have talented running backs. They just got to step up and be a leader as that quarterback position dictates. And they should be able to compete, but that could be a high pressure situation too. And we've seen where quarterbacks can just falter in that position too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you with players that are stepping into the show, stepping into that spotlight. Yes, you're right. We have seen a lot of players that just like, oh my God, what do I do now? Go into those type of aspects. But then you got some that are like, okay, here's my time to shine. I got something to prove, and step it up. And those are types of players you want to see, but how many times do you actually see that?
And the thing,
not that many.
And the thing with that situation, comparatively to like baseball, you always hear about certain players. They just aren't big city players because of their mentality. Like, there's pitchers out there who just they can't handle the pressure of playing in a big city. Whereas I think with the NFL, it's not so much a big city or a small city issue as it is a team popularity issue. I think the issue is geared more towards the team than it is the city. So, I mean, you don't talk about the Giants and the Jets in the same way you would talk about the Yankees, but you would talk about the Patriots, or you would talk about, in this case, the Saints in the same way you would talk about a Red Sox or a Patriots, in that these teams are high pressure teams. So someone stepping into the role of Drew Brees, that's a totally different situation than someone stepping into the role for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the Eagles. They've been trying to find a good quarterback for how many years now? Sorry, all Eagles fans, but it's true.
If Wentz, the whole Wentz thing is interesting. We talked about it, 2 episodes ago, 2 episodes ago. I think injuries and ego are really what was his. I mean, injuries could be anyone's downfall, but I think the ego on top of the injuries and how physically tough he isn't in the long run. It's not tough, durable. How durable he isn't for a whole season. Add in the ego, it created a firestorm that led to him wanting his release.
Oh yeah.
You can't blame the fans. You can't blame the team, because injuries are something it happens.
Oh yeah.
And certain injuries you just can't bounce back from fully.
But I think with Wentz is that nobody held him accountable. I think that was the thing. Nobody held him accountable for what he's done, where these other teams, these other high-power teams, like let's say the Saints, the Patriots, teams like that, everybody was held accountable. I mean, I don't think Belichick would let things fly.
Well, I would say the same about the Steelers, too. I don't think Mike Tomlin
Exactly.
He runs a tight ship, and that's a team first mentality kind of team. And I don't think you can go into a situation where you have an ego and really be a team leader if you're going to act a certain way.
I mean, I think if you have an ego, you cannot be a leader. I should say you cannot be an efficient leader because it's going to be all about you. That's all you're going to think.
You need confidence, obviously, to be a team leader, especially in a quarterback situation. But there's a difference between full of yourself and confidence. And I get the vibe that Wentz might have been a bit full of himself there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He just didn't seem like he had the leadership like Drew Brees does or did at this point, or Tom Brady, what he's done. He just didn't seem like even with these other quarterbacks. I just don't think he had that.
I honestly think to some degree he didn't connect with the fan base. Because who did the fans rally around? They rallied around Nick Foles.
Oh yeah.
There are guys who come into Philadelphia and they thrive, and there's guys who come into Philadelphia and they
end their career. And that's just with any
degree.
and now saying that is any Philadelphia team between the Sixers, the Flyers, and the Eagles. So that's any of those sports. Wow, we DD off the subject too. And the Phils.
Jesus.
It's just Philadelphia in general, just any sport, even soccer probably even has that. So, I mean, who knows?
Right.
But, I think Drew Brees is definitely going to be first round or however the NFL does their Hall of Fame. I think he's going to be.
He's a definite Hall of Famer.
Because I know the NHL has 3 years. And that's when you're eligible after 3 years from leaving the game. The NFL, I'm not quite sure how they handle that.
I'm not quite sure either. It's not a Hall of Fame I pay attention to. That's maybe a little lazy on my part, but he's a lock. He's a lock for the Hall of Fame. Great quarterback. He had a great career. Now he's moving into the analyst position, and we'll see how he does next season with that.
I think he had a fantastic career, not just, the Chargers you really don't hear much about because he only spent 4 years there. Was it 4 years or 3 years? It was 4 years, 2001 to 2005. But I think the Saints is where he really prospered. Really,
he came into his own with the Saints, and
and the funny thing is though, being considered a short quarterback, being able to accomplish all this stuff, because I looked up the average quarterback height is 6'3", so he was actually considered a short quarterback.
But you know what? Even with that quote unquote short stature, I mean, he didn't get outworked, and that's why he was able to stay the quarterback for as long as he could. Now, obviously, last season he had some injury issues. He's gotten older. But no one's going to – and the same thing with like Jordan at the end of his career when he was playing with the Wizards. No one's going to talk about that last season with the Saints. They're going to talk about his peak time with the Saints. And that was a heck of a peak. So hats off to Drew Brees and his career.
Oh, yeah. As long as he doesn't do what Michael Jordan did and try to go to play baseball.
He doesn't Favre the situation and unretire 3 more times.
Right. How many times did Favre leave and come back? I mean, I lost count.
For sure twice, because he went to the Vikings and then he went to the Jets, or he went to the Jets and then the Vikings. I don't remember the order anymore.
It was all back and forth with him. I mean, he was another great quarterback, but still, I mean, I'm retired. I'm unretired. I'm retired. I'm unretired. Take a pick.
Now he sells Copperfit.
Right? Him and Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
But I just feel that he, had a good career, had everything that he set out to do for his draft pick where he was at, second round, 32 in that round, and everything he accomplished for what he, he's definitely a Hall of Famer. So definitely a quarterback that's going to be missed because you always love to see him. Him and Brady was always a good, going back and forth. So on that note, that is the end of period 2. So we'll be right back after a short break.
Baseball fans, check out the Baseball Together podcast. Your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Broogie Blue Eyes, present new episodes for the entire baseball family every Tuesday. Available on all your favorite podcast apps and YouTube. Come join our baseball family where we do baseball together.
All right, welcome back for the third period. Now, normally the third period, we always have a fun topic that we always go through, whether it be favorite stadium foods or things like that. But today we're going to do a tribute to the marvelous Marvin Hagler, who passed away at the age of 66. This just happened recently, and he's had a hell of a career.
Yeah, 62 wins, 52 by KO, 3 losses, 2 draws, held the title for 7 years, International and World Boxing Hall of Fame in 93. He was the man, and he's one of the pillars of the boxing game in the 80s.
Well, when he first started boxing, he went 26 non-losing streak before his first loss. So he went 26 fights before he had 1 loss, and he had 2 losses. After that first loss, he had another one 2 fights later, but then he went 37. Before he had his final loss. 37 fights before he had his final loss.
And I'll say this in regards to that final loss.
Sugar Ray Leonard's no joke either. Sugar
Ray Leonard was no joke, but here's the conditions Leonard in that fight, he asked for certain in his contract for the fight, there were specific things that he wanted, and they got granted to him. He wanted a bigger ring. Instead of the typical size ring. So they fought in a 22 by 22 ring. So that's, to put it in perspective, ring wise, the WWE ring for WWE is a 20 by 20 ring. That's a pretty big ring. This is 2 feet by 2 feet bigger than that ring.
That's ridiculous.
That favored Leonard because Leonard could move around more. That would tire Hagler out, which would take away Hagler's typical fighting style. So I can understand why after that loss he was done, because everything was tilted towards Leonard from the get-go.
Well, that should never happen either. It should have been, this is it, that's it, boom, done. Here's the standard, here's the rules, here's the regulations, that's it. But at the
Sugar
time,
Ray Leonard,
exactly. That fight happened in '87, so the '80s.
Well,
anytime.
I think certain big name boxers get conditions thrown their way that are more favorable to them. The boxing game isn't always the most scrupulous sport out there when it comes to big money fights. But that's what we're talking about tonight anyway. We're going to be talking about what I would say is the greatest fight in boxing, which is Hagler versus Hearns, the war.
Yeah, pretty much that fight was definitely, they let it all out on the line. They did not hold back. They didn't dance around. They didn't be like, oh, no, don't hit me. They let it all out. I mean, it was about
war. It was a war.
It was. I mean, Hearns broke his hand during the fight.
Broke his hand in the first round.
And still kept throwing with it. So now, anybody who wants to watch the fight, go to YouTube. We're going to have the link up. Go and watch it. Before we really get into this, I got to say, this would be the fight I would say a non-fan should watch. Yeah. Because boxing nowadays really is not what it was back then, because more it's like you have to get points, this and that.
Guys are more concerned with getting points to win. They're more concerned with their defense. There's still some guys who want to throw, and there's still some charismatic boxers out there, but the boxing game as itself is much different than it was, almost 40 years ago. Ugh.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, almost. Yeah. At that point. Yeah.
With that said, I would rather show someone a fight like this than a Tyson fight. Because
that
Tyson,
or Mayweather fight.
Tyson ate people up. These are two guys at the peak of their career, just banging it out.
Oh yeah, that they were. I mean, they were throwing. There was no doubt about that. I mean, you can even hear in the crowd's reactions.
So one of the things that's interesting about this fight is actually before the fight, they went on a 20-city media tour to hype the fight.
One hell of a promotion.
But you got to think after 20 cities, they probably hated each other.
Sick and tired of looking at it. Like, again, I'm just going to beat you, and that's about it.
And one of the things on so HBO used to do a really great half-hour documentary series on big fights and big fight trilogies that they aired on HBO called Legendary Nights. And they had a Legendary Nights, obviously, for Hagler versus Hearns. And one of the things I really thought was interesting about that, and because it gives background information on both boxers that, time kind of forgets. Even though Hagler was coming in as the champion, he still felt like he had something to prove. He felt like he wasn't getting respect from the boxing media, from the boxing fans. So he was going into this fight as the defending champion, already 5 years into being the champion, with a chip on his shoulder, feeling like he had something to prove. That is some determination right there, that you're still the champ and you still feel like you have something to show people and to prove out there in the ring. Most guys, they got the belt, they're done. I mean, that's all they care about. He cared about, yeah, I might be the champ, but you're not respecting me as the champ. So I'm going to make you respect me as the champ.
Well, that'll put a chip on anybody's shoulder. I mean, sort of like if you're in the NFL and you go late in the draft, that's going to put, and that's going to put a chip on your shoulder. Like, hey, I'm good enough to be up here. Probably the same with him. He, like you said, he wasn't getting the same respect as what he should be. Yeah, even though he is the champ, yeah, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to have something to prove. So he's going to go out there every night, or I'm sure I should say every fight, and throw everything he had into it, leave everything in the ring. And that's the way it should be. Leave it all in the ring. Don't let anything behind. Just throw it all out there, because those are the best fights when you have two guys. You have two guys like these two in that fight in the war to go at it. They just let everything there. They let everything in the ring. That's what you want, because that's entertainment. That is a fight. That is what boxing should be.
Right. And now Hearns, he had just moved up to the middleweight division before this fight. And they were supposed to fight previously, but that fight happened to get canceled due to a hand injury by Hearns, which fueled Hagler's frustration even more leading up to this fight and the 20-city media tour. So that's interesting in and of itself.
That's just anytime you have something like that. Yeah, it's gonna be some fun behind that, especially for promotions.
Right. So what were your thoughts on the fight after you finally watched it?
Oh, jeez. It was a fight. It was something that you definitely can be entertained with, edge of your seat. Just imagine if you were there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because they were just throwing haymakers. I mean, they were not just like dancing around the ring like you see now. They weren't just like, tap, just giving small taps. They were throwing. I mean, they were, a good wound up throwing either to the body or good headshots. I mean, it was definitely something, like you said earlier, if you are a non-boxing fan, watch it. This will change your mind with it because of just how they fought, how they let everything there. They didn't just say, oh, I don't want to get hit or play, like I said earlier, a lot of fighters are focused on defense. I think they let everything out there the way it should be. The determination was there, even for Hagler, because he had a cut over his eye.
Right.
And what, that was in the first round?
He got cut in the first round. Yeah.
Yeah. So both fighters were playing with a slight, disadvantage because one had a broken hand because Hearn had a broken hand. Hagler had a cut over his eye, which could affect his eyesight at any moment.
Right.
Because it was above, because it was above it. It wasn't on the eyebrow or the eyelid. It was right above it. So there's always that opportunity of blood going into his eyes where then he couldn't see, that he couldn't continue to fight.
And
so that he kept pushing to keep going. And they both were throwing, even with Hearns keep throwing his right hand, despite it being broken. Yeah, it may not be landing significant punches, but still, he's still throwing.
Right. He never stopped throwing that right hand. And that right hand was his punch. That was his power punch, was from the right hand. And he was still throwing punches with the broken right hand for all 3 rounds. With that kind of thrown into the whole thing, one of the really cool things in interviews with Hagler about the fight is he said once the referee had the doctor look at the cut, he's like, I had to take it out of their hands. And then you see not long after that, he takes it into his own hands and he ends the fight. He went hard at it. Really just, 3 rounds of probably the best boxing you'll ever see as a fan or viewer.
How many times do you see boxing matches nowadays go 3 rounds? Normally they go the full set.
Full 12 rounds.
Yeah, whatever that number's set to. It's normally gone the full. When you go 3 rounds and they're throwing, they're not just like holding back. They're not dancing around. They're not going for points. They're not playing really heavy defense like a lot of today's fighters are. They're going full board throwing. So
and here's
that's what you want to see.
Here's one of my thoughts on all that, and it's why I miss Tuesday night fights on USA and why I miss Friday night fights on ESPN. I miss seeing hungry fighters, guys who are on their way up and have something to prove. They're more willing to throw and make a name for themselves than a guy at the top of the game. Totally different story with this fight, because these were 2 guys at the top of their game who let it all hang out for 3 of the greatest rounds ever. It was Ring Magazine Fight of the Year. They had the Round of the Year, and why not?
Oh, yeah. It was a fantastic fight. It wasn't like it was a boring fight where you just sit there and snooze. No, it was a full-blown slugfest. Some punches you were like, how did that not end them?
It's like what you see in a Rocky movie, essentially.
Pretty much. It wasn't like everybody's okay, let's just go for points. Let's play defense. Let's hold back. Oh, you have a cut over your eye. Just play defense. You have a broken hand. Play defense. No, it's you have a broken hand. Suck it up. Start hitting. You have a cut above your eye. You can see. Go.
It was 2 guys with something to prove who happened to meet at the right time in the ring.
And it was a perfect time because that was a hell of a fight.
It is a hell of a fight.
That was about it. That's one of those fights, like I said. And you even said it yourself. If you're not a boxing fan, watch it. I'm not a big boxing fan, and this was a fight that you could just sit there and just watch and be entertained by.
Yeah.
And not just sit and not just sit there and be like and snore about it. No, it's a fight that you're at the edge of your seat. You're like, wow, yeah, they're just not holding back. What defense? They're just throwing. And some of those shots when you see them land, you just kind of like cringe, like, ow.
Yeah, you could feel some of those. And if we're going to talk, since obviously Marvin Hagler passed away, and that's why we're talking about him. And my thought was, if we're going to talk about him, we got to talk about this fight specifically, because if you're going to, he's known for this fight for obvious reasons. But the man had a tremendous career, and this really was the pinnacle of his career, was this night.
Oh yeah, a lot of fights that, like we said, go 12 rounds. he went 3.
And the funny thing is, during that promotional tour, Tommy Hearns predicted that the fight would end in 3 rounds, predicting that he would be the one to end the fight in 3 rounds. Obviously, in that case, he was wrong, but he did call that the fight would end in 3 rounds. Little poetic justice there, but
I mean, just imagine you say, "Oh yeah, fight's gonna end in 3 rounds. I'm gonna whoop you." And it's in 3 rounds, but you lose.
He was the one who got whooped.
I'd be like, I mean, even Tom Hanks, he had a hell of a career too. I mean, he only had 5 losses in his career out of 67 fights. I mean, he went 61 wins with 48 knockouts, 1 draw, 5 losses. So his fight record was nothing to blink at either. He had a hell of a career as well.
His career lasted until the 2000s.
So yeah, I mean, but for them to, like you said, right moment, right time, here we are, our stars aligned. Let the fight happen, and it happened.
Yeah.
There was no, like, you're bored with this fight. It was you're entertained.
It was a brawl.
And that's putting it nicely. Because as soon as he got knocked out, basically, when they started counting, when he hit the ground, and you said it yourself when we were watching it, he's just standing there and he couldn't lift his arms.
No, his arms, he couldn't get him up.
You could tell in his face that he was out.
He was. Both guys had to have been physically spent, but I mean, with Hearns being knocked out, it was obviously clear he was physically spent at the end of that fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, just staring at him, just looking at his face, you can tell he was just gone. He was standing, yeah, but he wasn't there.
No.
And
the referee obviously made the right call.
Yeah, because it could have gotten a little more dangerous if it would have kept going. Because Hearns couldn't keep his hands up. He couldn't bring up his arms. So how could he play any type of defense to block shots? How could he throw? It just leaves Hagler to an all-out punching bag fest.
Right, and you don't want that.
No, that's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Right.
What's the point? What's the fun? So, he definitely had a fantastic career. Unfortunately, at the age of 66, he passed. So hopefully this gave a good tribute to him.
Rest in peace, marvelous Marvin Hagler, one of the greats of all time.
Good, that was a good fight to watch on that one.
Yeah, it was.
When we did watch it.
Yeah, it was. I felt like that was a good topic to talk about for our third period this week too.
I know it wasn't one of our high comic or high fun like we had last week with our weird sports topics, or not last week, last episode with our weird sports topics, but I think it was a fitting tribute that was something that needed to be done.
Yeah, I agree with that. Big fan of the fight, like Marvin Hagler as a fighter. He ended up doing commercials and movies after that. So, I mean, he had a good life, obviously. Shame he had to pass away at the age of 66. But
and the fact that he actually changed his name.
He did change his name legally to Marvelous Marvin Hagler because the ring announcers weren't calling him Marvelous Marvin Hagler. They were just calling him Marvin Hagler. So he again took it out of their hands. It's the story of Marvin Hagler. He did it himself.
It should be.
But yeah, what a good way to end the show, I think.
Oh yeah, good tribute to him. I feel it was a good tribute just to talk about his life, talk about his fights, especially that one. That
greatest fight of all time, of course. All right, well, with that, thank you for joining us for episode 16 of the Not Another Sports Podcast. You can find us online at facebook.com/notanothersportspod. Feel free to like, comment, or message us. The Not Another Sports Podcast is available for streaming or download at Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do not forget to rate and review. We are on YouTube now. If you find us on YouTube, please like our videos, subscribe, review, comment. You can watch us talk about this stuff instead of listening to us if you want. With that, I'm Jason.
I'm David.
We'll talk to you next time.
Have a good one.